This is Tarheel Talk, an in-depth look at the issues and people making news in North Carolina. Here's your host, Sonia Williams.
NC Women United is a coalition of organizations and individuals working to achieve the full political, social, and economic equality for all women across North Carolina. Now, joining me now to tell us more about this organization is its founder, Anne Mackie. Anne is also the president of the Triangle Older Women's League, which is a member organization of NC Women United. And welcome to Tarheel Talk.
Thank you for having us here, Sonia. We're delighted to be here.
Now, NC Women United focuses on health issues and social issues as they relate to public policy and women. Tell us a little bit about how you started this organization.
Well, back in 1987, a group of state women lawmakers felt like they weren't hearing from women in the way they'd like to. They weren't sure what kind of laws women were wanting. And what had happened is that a lot of the women's organizations, their membership had gone back to work. And so they weren't quite as strong. They didn't have as many volunteers at the time. And so we called together a meeting of state lawmakers, the women lawmakers, and 15 heads of statewide women's organizations to see what should we do about this problem. And we decided to hold a statewide conference. So the first one was held in February 1988 at Meredith College, and we had 225 women from all across the state come. And the design we made for the meeting was, we thought we needed some information about the issues, so we started from a common place. So we created something called the Draft Women's Agenda, which had at the time 42 issues in it.
Oh, wow.
And there were papers, one-page papers with some ideas about what could be done at the state legislative level. And during that meeting, people came together in small groups with trained facilitators and talked about the issues and narrowed them down to 16 priorities. And so we thought at the end of that, everyone said, this is something more women should be able to do. And we realized we needed to narrow it down from 16 still further, or the state legislature wouldn't take us seriously. So we then planned 10 regional women's agenda assemblies that was based on the same design for the meeting around the state. And over 1,000 women attended those meetings. And they also said, this is such a great process. We learned so much about the issues from each other in the small group discussions. And we learned what we thought were priorities. And we feel a little better prepared to talk to our state lawmakers now because we've talked about it somewhere. We've expressed our opinion, and so we can do that more easily now with our lawmakers. And so we thought we had a hit on our hands. So every 2 years since then, we have held women's agenda assemblies around the state, created a new draft agenda, and then held these meetings based on that. And anyone who comes to a meeting can bring up new issues that aren't in the draft agenda. So like in, I don't know, it's probably 10 years ago in Wake County, we had 9 small group discussions. 5 of them brought up public transportation as a women's issue, which we hadn't put in the draft agenda. But in Wake County was an essential issue for women. People needed to get to work, they needed to get to school, and it's a big county and it's hard, not everybody has a car. So those kinds of other issues come up during the process as well.
And these assemblies are held all across North Carolina.
All over the state, that's right.
What were some of the early issues that the assemblies addressed? Well,
we've always been concerned, it's always been a priority, violence against women. Domestic violence and sexual assault have always been top priorities. Adolescent pregnancy has always been a concern because when a young woman has a child early in life, her life promise is often really compromised. And so we realize that's something that if we can prevent adolescent pregnancy, we can help a lot of young women do much better in their life. And we have made real progress in this state in reducing adolescent pregnancy, and we're one of the groups that has advocated for that for many years.
Absolutely. That was going to be my next question. What are some of the successes that NC Women United has seen in terms of shaping public policy in North Carolina?
Well, one of the things, the very first one was a very simple thing, but it used to be that if you wanted to go to community college, you had to go full-time. to get a scholarship.
Okay.
But most women who need to go to community college need a scholarship, but they couldn't get one unless they went full-time, and they had children at home, they couldn't do that. So we passed a tiny little law that wasn't hard to get passed at all to make it possible for women to get a scholarship for going part-time to community college, which made it possible for many more women to get started on a career. But we've passed a lot of legislation to improve funding for domestic violence and sexual assault centers, which are not still in every county in the state, and they're still very poorly funded, but they're better funded than they used to be. And we've passed some laws about divorce, which helps women in the process, because often the man has so much better funding, he can hire a big lawyer, and the woman doesn't have the funds to do that, and is a big disadvantage, so we've equalized that a bit. We've improved, well, there's just many things, I can't recall them all at this point, but we've really made a difference on quite a lot of issues. And the women legislators consistently, we usually have a press conference at the beginning of the legislative session at some point to kind of announce what our issues are this year. And we consistently have both Democrats and Republican women come and stand behind us and back the women's agenda. So we know that women understand that these issues that we are calling for are important.
Right. So the purpose of the assemblies is to develop the issues that are of concern for women across the state? Is that...
Yeah, well, it's a kind of a multi-purpose. One is to get women more familiar with the issues, because I care about, health care, and someone else cares about pay equity, and someone else cares about domestic violence. So when we come together as a group and discuss the issues, and when we have a copy of the draft agenda, both of those, the discussions and the reading, give us all a much wider view of all the issues that of concern to women. And then we need to think through for ourselves, what do we really think are the most important issues? Legislators can't deal with everything.
Right.
What should we tell them? In this next 2 years, here's what we really need you to focus on. And then the third part of it is practicing in the small group discussion, which is just with women, and where you have a trained facilitator to make sure everybody has a chance to speak and no one dominates the conversation. You have a kind of a practice place where you can learn to speak up for the issues that you're concerned with, which makes you just a little better able to then talk to your lawmaker when you call.
And much more confident as well.
That's right, that's right. So there's three things: learning about the issues, deciding what you think are priorities, and then being prepared to speak. And we usually at the assemblies include some training on how to be a good citizen lobbyist.
Now, we were talking before the show, and you said anyone who has a desire can put together an assembly. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, that's right. We're eager to have communities around the state put together one of these, and we have a booklet that helps you know how to put it together. The first time I organized it, I was on the phone all the time with people problem solving, because none of us quite knew how to do this. But then I wrote down all the problems that we had to solve, and then we put out a little booklet. And every few years we revise that booklet to make it more up to date, and because we're using computers a lot more than we used to, and so on. So it has to be slightly revised. But so there is a booklet that helps people to organize one of these, and all they have to do is get in touch with North Carolina Women United, NCWU.org, to learn more about how to get that booklet and get started organizing one.
Absolutely, and they can also call 1-866-518-7657. This organization focuses a lot on public policy as it relates to women. Why is it so important for women to be involved in the political process?
Well, there's a number of reasons. One is